Welcome to Washington Watch with Congressman Walter Jones. Each month, we take a look at the events happening in Washington, D.C. and how they affect our lives here in eastern North Carolina. And now, here's your Congressman, Walter Jones.
Welcome to the October edition of Washington Watch. Today I am especially grateful and also honored to have Major General Robert Dickerson, who is the base commander at Camp Lejeune. And I want to tell you just a little bit about this gentleman. In his 30-plus years in the military, Major Dickerson has been assigned duties at various locations throughout the United States as well as across the world. He has been stationed in Korea, Southwest Asia, where he participated in Operations Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Operations Eastern Exit, and the Atlantic and the Caribbean. He is what I call a typical Marine and a typical leader of this country who serves in the military. General Dickerson, I am honored and pleased to have you on the October edition of Washington Watch.
Congressman Jones, thank you, and thank you for your support and helping us get this mission accomplished today.
Well, General, so many times we own roughly 12 channels, and most of the stations that carry this little program are not in and around Onslow County. We do have a station in Craven County, but those other counties, we all know how important the bases are in North Carolina. As you know, we're finishing another round of BRAC, and you and I will talk about that in a second. We seem to have come out pretty well there. But when you think of the economic value of the bases in North Carolina, I think it's somewhere over $18 billion. And I wish you would share with the viewers just how important Camp Lejeune is as a part of that $18 billion for the state of North Carolina.
Camp Lejeune direct and indirect compensation to Onslow County in eastern North Carolina equates to about $2.4 billion a year, sir. And that's with the current structure. We're in the process of adding additional structure to Camp Lejeune, which we can talk about in a few minutes. But that's going to be about $200 million a year more to the economic flow in Onslow County in eastern North Carolina. Camp Lejeune is 246 square miles, 14 miles of beachfront, pristine training ranges, and that's the key, is we're able to take our weapon systems, the Marines and sailors, and we have a lot of coalition and joint forces that come down and train at Camp Lejeune as well. But they get to go out into the ranges and train and be prepared to go forth, specifically today in the global war on terrorism. But the support of Onslow County and the economic impact of everything helps the vitality and the economy around Camp Lejeune.
General, I know that in the past years prior to your service as base commander and now as you're serving as base commander, that Camp Lejeune has won awards from environmental groups for working with the groups to make sure that there are certain parts of the bases that we continue to protect the integrity of the. Can you speak to that just briefly?
Yes, sir. Working with the state of North Carolina and environmental organizations, we're building natural corridors around the ranges, around Camp Lejeune and Onslow County to let migratory animals and birds be able to migrate in and out. This is not taking over or buying land. We don't want to expand Camp Lejeune. What we're doing is we're protecting the environment so that the ranges remain vibrant, the economy remains vibrant in Onslow County, people can develop. We can't tell anybody what to do outside the boundaries of the base, but working with the county commissioners, the local officials, and with the people that own the property out there, we're mitigating the issues that were there for many, many years. So this is good for the economy, this is good for Camp Lejeune and vitality, and it also eliminates encroachment issues that we have around the ranges.
Absolutely. I know that in this round of BRAC, that Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, all three, as well as Fort Bragg, came out extremely well, and that's because of that relationship that you have with the community, which has really been fostered under your leadership and those who served before you, and it continues to grow and expand. And I tell people, I was with someone yesterday and I said, they hadn't been to Jacksonville in 10 years. I said, you won't recognize it. I said it's a community on the move, and I said that relationship between Camp Lejeune and the leadership of the county and the town of Jacksonville is excellent. Let me now move to a kind of a policy issue. You know that it's been in the newspaper. We've had hearings here in Washington as it relates to recruitment. There is some concern that the National Guard and reserves are down a little bit as it relates to recruitment. Can we talk a little bit about the Marine Corps and how you feel recruitment's going for the Marine Corps?
Yes, sir. Fact is, I had a brief on that this week. There were several months this year that we didn't make the goal. But overall, for the annual goal of what we need is approximately about 35,000 new inductees every year to keep the numbers at where we are today of about 175,000 in strength. We've made this year's mission. Fact is, we're now working on getting the numbers for next year that we need to be able to maintain the force structure within the Marine Corps today. It's a difficult time. Understand that Marines and the Army are taking most of the casualties on the battlefield. So parents are a little reluctant at this point to allow their children to commit. But they understand, they're very supportive. We have a large group of people that want to join the Marine Corps today. That are just being a little cautious where they want to come in. We're looking at ways to increase the numbers of bringing people into the Marine Corps specifically. But overall, the American public understands and supports what we're doing today.
General, on retention, you know, we in the Congress have allocated millions of dollars to make sure that those individuals who would like to stay in the Marine Corps and the other services, that if they make that decision to extend their tour, then they get a bonus. Do you feel that this is a help to the families of those who decide to stay in?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. And fact is, we're looking at the bonuses that we give our various military occupational specialties. In the past, an infantry Marine got a military bonus equivalent to a 1. It's a very complicated formula, but they would not get a lot of money. Now that has been increased by a factor of 3. Okay. And we're looking at those critical MOSs, specifically the Marines that go through the training pipeline. It takes a long time to train them in their specialty. Those are the critical Marines. We call them critical low-density military occupational specialties. Those are the Marines that are getting the higher bonuses today to keep them in.
General, we were talking about quality of life when you're talking about the bonuses. I've had the pleasure 2 or 3 times to visit the schools on base at Camp Lejeune, and you know, I've told people many times, y'all got a great working relationship with the superintendent and the public schools in Onslow County. But also, I found that those schools on base, both elementary and high school, it seems like they're special because a lot of those kids that I met when I've been down there, you know, they got a parent, maybe both parents in some situations, overseas, deployed. I very much support the schools on the military bases.
And sir, we appreciate that. Fact is, we're opening a brand new Department of Defense school. We're going to collapse 3 schools into 1 right now, and it opened in August. $28 million to put this facility in place. DOD schools are a little bit unique from what you would normally have in a public school because this is a worldwide school system that has everybody on the same curriculum, which makes it very critical to the people in the military. It's not uncommon if you move in your civilian job from place to place that when your children go to school again, they could either be ahead of the curriculum or behind the curriculum, depending on what district or where you go within America. DOD schools teach to the same curriculum. So that if you leave one geographic location, whether it be in the United States or around the world, get transferred. I've had 21 moves in my 32 years on active duty. So the children were constantly being moved from school district to school district, but they always went back into the same curriculum. They never felt like they were behind. They never felt like they were ahead, and it was a very good stability. It helps with families that stay in the military for a long time.
General, if we could now talk a little bit about the V-22, the Osprey, which is stationed at New River, and it's, you know, in the past few years there's been a lot of issues dealing with the V-22 Osprey, but it seems that the kinks have been worked out, if I can express it that way, and that the V-22, if you would speak to the importance of the V-22 for the war fighters, meaning the Marines, and how this would be so beneficial based on the fact that many times now they're flying in 40-year-old helos.
The helicopter community within the Marine Corps, the CH-46s, twin rotor aircraft, are very, very old. The fact is we have pilots flying them today that probably their fathers flew 20, 25, 30 years ago. The MV-22 is a phenomenal aircraft, and you're right. All of the issues that we had with the production and assembly of the MV-22, it appears right now with all the operational testing that it's gone through, have been resolved. It is phenomenal. It extends the reach of where we can put not only Marines but other services. And I say other services because all the other services are now looking at the capabilities of the MV-22. This is an aircraft that's twice as fast as any other rotary aircraft that we have. It lessens the time that you expose Marines to dangerous situations, getting them in and out of the fight. And it also extends the visibility or the awareness that enemy forces have to be concerned with now, because now it's twice the amount of area that they have to be concerned with as opposed to the current inventory of helicopters. This is going to revolutionize maneuver warfare within the military once it passes and goes into production.
Well, I had the pleasure a couple years ago, Secretary England and I both went down to New River, and I flew in the jump seat of an Osprey, and you know, I felt like maybe they did when they first found out that they went from horses to cars. I was just amazed with the ability of the pilots and the plane itself. It was just amazing.
The Marines are extremely excited about the MV-22. The pilots are excited, specifically over the last 5 years as they've been going along trying to maintain this program right now. But what we have and what it appears, partnership with the help from Congress, from the Senate, all of our elected officials getting us to where we are today, I think we're going to be very, very satisfied with the MV-22 that we have for the future.
Well, I know with the world we live in, I'm on the Armed Services Committee, as you well know, and the world we live in today, we have got to make the investment to make sure that our men and women, when called upon, have the very best, and certainly the V-22 is at the top of the list of replacing those old helicopters that are 40 and 50 years old. General, let's go back to this BRAC, because people, again, I don't want to be too repetitive, but as you made your first comments, that you really think, and we do too, that particularly Camp Lejeune and probably Cherry Point and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, but after the BRAC is finalized, that over the next 2 or 3 years, the bases that remain that were not on the BRAC list, if anything, they're going to expand assets, I would think, and job opportunities both for the civilians that work at Camp Lejeune and the other bases, as well as the mission of the base itself.
Current inventory at Camp Lejeune is about 43,000 Marines and sailors. When you put the families on board, only 25% of the families live at Camp Lejeune. 75% of the families live in Onslow County. That's why it's so critical we work with everybody in Onslow County, because it's not just inside the wire at Camp Lejeune, it's the entire community where the military family is living that we have concerns with everything that happens. Now, we're adding new structure of about 3,500 more Marines and sailors. Headquarters of Marine Corps has looked at those specific capabilities we need to expand based on the global war on terrorism. So that new structure is coming to Camp Lejeune. We're building the infrastructure right now. We've gone through restructuring with the civilian Marines on board the base. With the civilian Marines, we've downsized a lot of the positions and turned it over to contractors. But no civilian, and this is a very important point, sir, no civilian lost their job at Camp Lejeune. A lot of people elected to retire, and those that didn't elect to retire were hired by the contractors that won the awards when they came in. So the chances for growth on the military side and the civilian side is very, very good at Onslow County.
Well, I can honestly say that in the 11 years I've had the privilege to serve the people of the 3rd District, that one of the real joys and pleasures is when I do go to Jacksonville and see just how that town, I mentioned this earlier, but how it's growing, and because of that growth, there's been an ongoing discussion with the base, and it's been a very positive discussion of trying to help the county with its water needs. And that's a real credit, General, to you and those before you, that y'all have been, again, such a partner with the elected leadership in Onslow County, and we all appreciate that.
Yes, sir. We have excess capacity. We have excess wells. Everybody knows how critical potable water is, and they also understand the amount of sewer systems that are lacking in the community where you have septic tanks. We're going to sell to the community the excess capacity on the base so that they can continue residential growth and commercial growth around, which is sorely needed. They have now come together in what is called ONWASA, Onslow Sewer and Water Authority, where they're putting all the municipality utility organizations into one organization to be able to have a focused view on how they're going to do it as opposed to individual county by county. One thing I omitted to say earlier is the relationship between the Marines and sailors and the community changed dramatically on 23 October 1983. That was the Beirut bombing, where we tragically lost 241 Marines, soldiers, which is now increased over the years, but people that were there but have subsequently passed away. That galvanized Onslow County and Camp Lejeune in a way that I have never seen it galvanized before. And it's still a very, very positive influence because of the 241 original Marines that were lost and sailors, there from Camp Lejeune, a Bradford pear tree was planted in Onslow County. And every year, whether it be through natural disease, from hurricanes, from accidents along the way, the community comes together and replaces every one of those trees. That was a defining moment between Camp Lejeune and Onslow County, and that has made the relationship what it is today.
General, I had the honor and humbling experience, quite frankly, to attend one of those remembrance of those who were killed in the Beirut bombing, and it is very heart-wrenching to be there. And again, I don't have the military background, but I do have the heart that I do appreciate those who have served this great nation. General, we got about 30 seconds left. I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the 3rd District of North Carolina for your service and the service of all of our men and women in the Marine Corps and the other services as well. America is blessed with leaders like you, and I want to thank you so much for being on this show today.
Sir, it's my pleasure, and again, we couldn't do this without your support and all of our elected officials. Thank you. You are a great supporter, and you're always welcome to come back to Camp Lejeune, sir.
General, thank you so much. And in about 3 seconds, Glenn Downs, my Chief of Staff, your Chief of Staff, will be on the show, and we'll talk about some issues that you might also be interested in. Join us. I'm pleased now to have, as the second part of the show, Glenn Downs, who's been my Chief of Staff for 11 years. I'm lucky to have Glenn. He does a great job for the people of the 3rd District, and he certainly helps me do a job for you, the people of the 3rd District. Glenn, I was so pleased to have General Dickerson on. I know that the people that watched him can really see just how committed the Marine Corps is in Eastern North Carolina. And I want to say the Air Force at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base as well. to making that relationship between civilian and military work like a family.
Yes, sir. I can tell you the calls and letters that come into your office, not just now during this time of war, but over the entire tenure that you've been in office, tells you the people of Eastern North Carolina and the 3rd District in particular really appreciate the military.
They do, Glenn. Glenn, I know you've got some issues that you feel like the people of the 3rd District would like to hear me respond to, because you get emails on a regular basis and some telephone calls, and I'm delighted to try to see what you've got in the bag this week.
Yeah, Congressman, we've had an awful lot of calls and letters and other communications really dealing with the total level of federal spending. I guess, you know, the whole situation with the war costs, Hurricane Katrina, other natural disasters, and the total increase in a lot of different federal programs. Any one of those things may be fine with a lot of the people that are calling, but they're concerned, I guess, about the total level of spending.
Right. Glenn, this has been a week where the Republicans have conferenced twice on the issue of how we're going to pay for Katrina. In fact, in a way, some of the leadership has been a little bit concerned with the conservatives. I'm one of those in the conservative group that feels that if we're going to have to find offsets, Glenn,
what is offset? What do you mean by that?
For every dollar you spend, you find another dollar somewhere else that you can reduce spending.
If you don't have offsets, how do you pay for things?
It just continues to add to the debt of this nation. Okay. And we know that it's going to be an absolutely, millions and millions of dollars, probably billions, talking about Katrina. One thing, and I want the people to really understand, we are concerned about spending and trying to spend your money wisely. The debt of this nation right now, Glenn, is $7.9 trillion.
That's with a T.
That's with a T,
okay.
Right, that's with a T. I asked my staff the other day to call Congressional Budget Office, CBO, and ask them, at the rate we're going, how soon would we get to $10 trillion in debt? Glenn, they said, and this is not even factoring in the cost of Katrina, they said that by the year 2009 we will hit $10 trillion in debt. And I just don't know how long we can remain a strong economic nation with a debt at $10 trillion and a deficit that's growing at about $169 billion a day.
Well, following up on the Katrina situation, which has been very much obviously in the news, and people of Eastern North Carolina have got some affinity for disaster recovery needs because of the needs that we have faced and probably will face in the future. But there's a concern, I guess, that it's not just the level of the spending that people are talking about. Something like $250 billion has people in Eastern North Carolina concerned. There's a concern that maybe there's not a great plan. People are sort of making it up as they go along. And then thirdly, it's like, where's the money come from? So how confident are you that the $61 billion that Congress has already appropriated is being wisely spent? And how concerned are you about making sure that that next big chunk of money, however much that turns out to be, is wisely spent?
Glenn, I did support the initial supplemental for the victims of Katrina, and it's going, primarily the money is going to FEMA. And I think now that there's been a change of the Director Brown, I think he was probably a very fine gentleman, but I don't think he should have been in that position. He has now stepped down, as you know, and the viewers know. I think that we now have a better organization to get help to the people on the ground. There is going to be, we know that this is going to be a large amount of money, and we want to make sure that the large amount of money, that there is a good, strong oversight plan to make sure that the taxpayer's dollar gets to the person who needs the dollar. Too many times I don't think we have been as efficient as we should have been with the oversight, but I do believe this administration fully understands that the American people are willing to help, but the American people want to know that their dollar is going to that individual or that program that really needs the help.
Well, you've in the past expressed concern about this whole spending issue, whether it was the spending for education, which may or may not be admirable, but it's about doubled since 2001. You have the cost of however people feel about the war in Iraq. It's very expensive. Katrina, Medicare prescription drug program, all of which may be good and have constituencies, the total level has gone up. Where has the money so far come from for all that?
Well, Glenn, I don't mean to laugh because it's so serious, but I guess when you look at the fact that foreign governments own about 30% of that $7.9 trillion debt, people like the countries like Japan and China and other countries, Korea owns part of our debt. You get to a point that I just feel like that we in Washington have to really just start looking carefully at what we're spending the taxpayers' monies on, and I think there comes a time that you've got to reevaluate your priorities. And I am very concerned that we're borrowing money from China to pay the interest on the debt of this country. I mean, I know it's somewhat of a complex issue, but I definitely am one that believes that we have got to get straight.
Well, there's not a whole lot of time left in this episode of Washington Watch, but one issue that I have to bring up, because it's always been a concern, but it seems to be rising in terms of the people that are contacting your office, is the issue of illegal immigration. The concern that our borders are not being properly controlled. What are your thoughts on that issue?
Glenn, I've been saying for several years that I am more concerned about terrorism coming from Central and South America than I am terrorism coming from Iraq. You know, I have joined my good friend Virgil Goode, congressman from Virginia, in an amendment on the DOD bill, Department of Defense bill, to say we should authorize the use of troops on the border. We have between 8,000 and 10,000 illegals coming across the border each and every week. We cannot afford that. We've got to get serious about enforcing the laws of the land. If you're here illegally, you need to go back home.
So far, you've not had a majority of your colleagues in Congress that have joined you in that. Do you feel like people here in Congress are moving your way or not moving your way?
Glenn, I think more and more of my colleagues are moving this way because the American people are already there. More than 70% of the American people said that we should secure the borders of this country. Glenn, we got about 10 seconds left. I want to thank you. I want to thank Major General Dickerson for being on this program. I want to thank you for watching. Please watch our November edition of Washington Watch, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to join us for Washington Watch. If you would like to contact Congressman Jones, you're welcome to write to your Greenville office at 1105C Corporate Drive, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858, or call toll-free at 1-800-351-1697. You may also contact the Washington, D.C. office at the following address: 422 Cannon House Office Building, Washington, D.C. 20515, or please call 202-225-3415.